All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Dot Wave podcast. Today we have AV, audio video, and Ingvar as our guests. They are both part of Next Realm. What is it? Entertainment, Next Realm Music.
Well, it's Next Real Music, just by itself. Right. It's not a music group. It's not a label. It's just a production company. So I guess it would be Next Realm Productions.
Cool. Oh, yeah. So we are joined by these two fine gentlemen. This studio that they're at, it probably still is called this, or it was for a long time. It was called Manta Ray Records for a very, very long time. Everybody in Baltimore has heard this name. I even heard it, 7-8 years ago when I was in college looking for internships. So I guess we're just going to start off talking to you, AV, since you are the founder and you've been around for, a lot longer than Ingvar at this location. So I guess where I wanted to start was just like where you started. When and why did you start producing music?
I started as an artist myself. I needed to make my own beats. I wanted to have my own sound. So I put my man hours in towards it. I started when I was about 16 years old. I was a gospel artist at first. And then I converted into secular music. And then I gained some artists on my own. And the studios we were going to, they liked the production I was doing. So they offered me some subcontracting work. And then they offered me a partnership. And then I took over the label from there.
Wow. About how long did it take from when you started working with them until you took over?
Less than a year.
Oh, no shit. Good for you,
That's quick. Wow.
Yeah, less than a year.
Crazy. There's so much talent that, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was about to say, it was less than a year for them to offer me the subcontracting gig, but I worked with them for 2 years before I was offered partnership.
That's still pretty speedy.
Yeah, no kidding. There seems to be like tons of talent that comes out of gospel music. Like something about that as an environment just breeds incredible musicians.
Most time that's where they begin, in the church. I don't know why, but I guess, it's got something to do with God. He must love music.
So do I. So has rap and hip hop always been your focus, or have you always had kind of a broad range of tastes?
It's been my main focus, rap and hip hop. And R&B as well. But I'm now dabbling off in the other genres myself, trying to challenge and sharpen my knife a little bit. So I just recently did an alternative rock song. It turned out pretty good. I did an Afro beat. Netflix wanted it. It was my first Afro beat attempt.
Wow.
And I actually wrote a song to it and sold it for $500 just for a lease.
That's great.
So that was just my first attempt at Afro beat. And then this guy right here helped me make my second Afro beat.
What's up?
Julian Gales.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hello.
About two nights ago, we was in here just doodling around. So I need to make another Afro beat. I want to make a track I can burn a boy on. So we started the track and it's turning out amazing so far again. So it's just like, it's a domino effect that hits right now. Feeling like a Super Saiyan, see how strong I can get.
Oh, yeah.
What a cool feeling. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. It's funny how anytime you try something new like that and it's kind of unexplored territory, it almost always pays back like really quickly, like almost always in a way that you don't expect.
Right. But if you sit stagnant, you kind of guaranteeing nothing's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So we always got to grow, keep going to the next realm,
Yep. Get boxed in really fast.
That was a smooth ass plug of the name. Damn. Step up my fucking game. Didn't know we were on the call with a bunch of pros right now. Shit. So how many years after you started were you able to do this full time?
I would say it took me about 7 years because I was doing other jobs, working 9 to 5, and it was just a side thing. I was still doing well, but once I gained a clientele base that could sustain me to do it full time, then that's when I kind of just took it on from there. I haven't had a 9 to 5 in probably about almost 10 years.
That's awesome, man.
I've been doing music full time since.
Decades.
Yeah.
Hey.
Checkpoint.
I'm approaching 2 years myself, which it's like, I'm sure you can relate. At the beginning, there's always that feeling of like, is this going to crash and burn at any second?
Well, sometimes I feel that way, but that's why you gotta keep challenging yourself, create new avenues, and don't let anything discourage you if something didn't work out, or it's all about timing. Sometimes something you did years ago might be that next hit 5 years later. Like his project is full of beats like that, like beats that I've had like on the side that I just really cherished, and I was able to go back to them and make them modern again. Even with the commercials I've sent you, like that was like a 4 or 5 year old beat I was able to go back to and make a 60-second commercial about fruit juice for the radio. So
that's super cool.
That was $1,000 check for a 60-second song.
Yeah, it's always interesting going back to older projects. Earlier this year, I opened up an old hard drive and I opened like maybe 30 Ableton projects, and I remember writing off these songs when I wrote them, like, they kind of suck. But like listening back, I'm like 20 to, more than half of them. Like, okay, shit, actually, like little work. This is cool. Like, I don't really remember writing this, but that's what's up.
It was before its time.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to think about it. You've written something that your tastes haven't caught up with quite yet.
Exactly. You was too
Never would have thought of that.
Too original. You was too original for yourself. And once it's too original, it's hard to duplicate. So that means it didn't get old. It just got newer.
So when was it always Manta Ray Records even before you were here, or did it change to that after you came on?
Well, no, it was Manta Ray Records when I came on, but it was more of it was known for its location in Florida, and they were like more of a sub label, and then they broke off and did their own thing. So I was a part of that. So it was only here in Baltimore for about less than a year, like 11 months. It was here in Baltimore when I met him.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And was it at this location as well?
We were 2 locations before this one. So this is our 3rd location we moved to.
Well, it seems like it's stuck. Seems like it's stuck so far. You guys have been here for how many years now at this location?
This one here, we've been here for 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
9 years.
We've been at this location 9 years, and we was at the other location for like 4 years. And Jules used to be my intern there. That's where he met me at.
Oh, shit.
He's a graduate from Sheffield. And he runs sound. He knows everything. He knows how to engineer, make beats, sing. He's done rigging all around the world for some of the highest, prestigious, biggest, well-known production in the world, from Dubai with Cirque du Soleil to Disney to Marvel. He's done a lot, and he's right back here in Baltimore with us making more music.
It's interesting how, in order to make it in the entertainment industry nowadays, it seems like you have to be multifaceted like that. Like, you can't just be an artist. You have to be like an engineer. You have to be a live sound guy. You have to be like a stage rigger, like you're saying. You can't just like focus on one thing. It's like, if you diversify your efforts, one of them's for sure going to work after a certain amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, during this time, if it's still hot, and sometimes if you, like right now, we're going through that. And that's why I'm bringing it up, because one of the reasons we're doing Next Round is because we want to step out of the recording stage of recording other artists for studio hours and things like that. We want to get more into film scores and commercials, getting contracts with just sound, whether it's for video games or writing songs for another label. We want to start getting, a big foot in the door, trying to do some things that just the other industry and producers that consider themselves competition you're not competition. You're not even thinking on the level we are. We're hitting so many avenues. We're trying to be original in every aspect of it so that we can get more and more contracts, referrals, and see where it takes us to other opportunities we didn't think about. But if you're not thinking that well in that way, you can't get to the next round. And if you don't know what the next real music is, you kind of just carbon copy and what's already been done. And we, right now, in the beginning of the 2020s, we can define what the next sound is going to be. We could say, the 2020s sound like this. They do a movie and a film and they got to tap back into what the 2020s was like. They can stop playing next round's music because we took over that decade. We define what a dark scene sound like. We define what the club scene sound like. We define what a love song sound like. We define what the billboard sound like. If we keep just being multifaceted and trying to just create, innovate, see what the next real music is going to be, which means the next trend. And if we keep working with different producers like yourself, my man here who's a engineer and artist, and other producers, we gonna rub off on each other.
Yeah. It's something I've well, firstly, I want to say it sounds like you're cutting out the less fun parts of it, which is sitting for 10 hours in a room recording somebody, and you're just trying to focus on the creative part more, which is amazing. Like, I hope to be there at some point.
Right.
And the other thing I wanted to say,
I say I'm lucky. A lot of people can only do it with the little bit of time they have to do it as a hobby, you know, but those 10 hours is feasible now.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say was where you're saying getting with other producers, and that's extremely important. When I was younger, I used to be like hyper competitive. And as I've, in my old age of 27, I've started to realize, like, maybe if I'm just friends with all these people, it'll actually be better. And like, yeah, it is sometimes. Like, I think Ingvar is going to be having me play guitar on a track or something like that. Like, there'll always be little like gigs that just get thrown your way just from being kind of a cool guy.
Exactly. And that's what you want to be, because then your guitar playing will rub off on anybody else I play that beat for. And I'll introduce you. Any other track, let's say we did 3 or 4 beats together and they kind of got a hint of your style, and it's like, oh, they admire that and it rubbed off on them. The more minions you get, the bigger you become. You're the godfather of that sound at that point. But you got to accept your minions. Don't look at them as competition. Don't step on them because they stole your sound. Like, encourage them to steal it, because they define what's the trend. The trend is what everybody's doing. So embrace them to do what you do. Challenge them to carbon copy what you invent. And then boom. That's how we invent the next round, the next real music.
Well, it also, in doing that, you also drive yourself, because somebody will come along and inevitably do it really well. And then you're like, oh shit, like, I got to step up my game now.
That's the inner competition right there.
I think
it's cool Andrew, how fluid it can get like that with different artists, even through different styles of music. I guess like even down to like the business part of it and building relationships there, but you could really like rub shoulders, like you were saying, with like every instrumentalist or musician you meet, and it can really influence you to create something that like you're the godfather of. You kind of develop your own personal sound over a while that you end up being really good at. Right. And I think that that's just something to be proud of once you get to that point.
If you aim for it, you got a higher chance of getting there. But if you put too much man hours into just doing what everybody else says is the trend, you're going to realize, you put a lot of man hours into something that's about to go out of style.
Totally. Everybody's already heard like the best version of Travis Scott and Mac Miller and stuff like that. You know, those guys earned their title. And while they do influence a ton of people, I don't know. I feel like that it's a lot funner to be ingenuitive and creative than to try and chase that sound. You know, of course, pull those elements in that kind of drive that, but too much of the carbon copy, I feel like you're already at the tail end of it once those guys are already at the top.
Exactly. You're pretty much a wedding singer from that point forward. You're doing a cover of everybody else's song at the reception.
Yeah, pretty much.
Big karaoke.
Has that happened to either of you? Have you guys invested a lot of time into a project that later on you realize, like, oh, this would have been cool like 6 years ago, but I'm way behind now?
Yeah, I've done that before. Where it's been, and sometimes I always question that, even with the alternative beat. I was like, I don't really listen to much of this, but from what I know, sounds good to me. So this might sound dated. I don't know. So I have to second guess that by sending my music out to a lot of musicians or producers, and they reconfirm for me if I'm on the right track.
What about you, Ingvar?
I don't know. Nothing that seemed like too dated. I worked on a project that was recorded in like the 90s, and now I have to like refresh it to give it a somewhat modern sound.
But that's not next round. That's a client.
That's just a client project.
So Next Realm is the collaboration between you and Ingvar. Then that is stuff that you guys create.
It's not just the two of us. It's kind of just the network of all these. You know, obviously he's the forefront of it, and I'm a part of it. but Jules is a part of it.
Mhm.
We have a jazz pianist, Lafayette Gilchrist. He's played all over the world. He did music for The Wire and HBO's
Amazing. Wow.
some other HBO shows. And so he's been playing piano on a lot of our productions as well. And it's just kind of bringing in more people. We have some people that would come in and do guitar, definitely Seamus will have you do some guitar on the track, so it's kind of just
it's a team with a concept and a goal.
Yeah.
Okay. And the concept is to be the trend in everything we do. And if I ask you to do a guitar piece, I'm expecting you to keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting you to not just play the key that's in and just freestyle. I want you to come up with something you could do again and again if you had to. Like if we had to make an album out of this sound, I could depend on you to bring that flavor. And that's a consistent sauce that we could sell instead of, and the sauce that you can sell, meaning that's the anticipation. Meaning the first one was free, the second one you're gonna have to pay, but you know what you're getting. That's the anticipation. I know what I'm about to get. You know what I mean? And if we can sell that expectation, that consistency, and we rub it off on the rest of the world, we are the next round. But we set the expectation. So if I got musicians on it, other producers, and it's sounding like a big production, if that becomes the new trend for the 2020s, then now we just setting the bar. We want people to supersede that. Mm-hmm. If we can get people to start thinking in that light and still can't compete with us, then I think that we on to something.
The music was like, yeah. Well, that's good because we're actually switching over. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can pause the recording for you.
So
you're good. So Ingvar, we've got some questions for you. So this is pretty good timing.
That works.
Yeah. So
are we not recording right now?
We're recording at the moment.
Oh, hi.
Train doesn't stop. Here we are.
I thought you were pausing it for some reason.
Well, I think I was going to when he was sitting there, but anyway, we're continuing.
Yes. I got you. Okay.
So how long have you been working with AV and how did you get hooked up with them?
I started in it was the end of 2015. It's like a long-winded chain of events. So I used to like DJ in the, when I was starting production, I was also doing DJing because if you're going to be an EDM producer, you also should DJ your music.
Yeah.
So totally. I got into DJing at an early age, and by doing these shows in Baltimore, I was like 16, getting my dad to drive me to like some club and do my thing. But so I met this photographer, Josh, and I kept seeing him at events. So we just kind of like got each other's information. And Josh was the photographer for Manta Ray, and through Manta Ray, I was able to, I interviewed for an internship, and then day one met AV on the interview.
Oh, you want to tell him about that? When I kicked him out on your first day?
Oh, no, I didn't get to that yet.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it. That sounds spicy. Let's hear that shit.
So,
spicy. This
wasn't day one, but this was the first time I had to run a session by myself. So this guy comes in. The guy shows up late. And then the guy shows up, sees that I'm not using Pro Tools, and starts getting his nose all turned up about it and making comments about it. I'm like, whatever. And then, I'm getting the track up, and I had some latency, so I was just changing, the interface for it. But he just was like, oh, what's going on? He's just saying stuff. So AV came up and was just trying to swoop in and save the session. He's like, all right, we'll do it down here, and I'll sit in and watch it. The guy does one take, and he clips on the take.
Yeah.
So AV said, hey, we got to redo that take. And the guy's like, no, I like that take. Let's just keep going. And at this point, this guy has already just been aggravating us for the past half hour or so. And so without hesitation, AV just gets him and is like, just get out, get the fuck out. If you won't redo a take just because you clipped,
Exactly. If you can't do
Come on.
if you can't do another take for me, I'm no longer interested in your dream. You can't even do a take out. Even if it was to entertain me, you can't do a take for me. Get out. I don't want to spend another second on your dream. Like that other take was for your dream. It was because I gave a fuck about your dream. Now you got to redo this take every time you go on tour. Why this one man audience can't get another take don't make no sense. So get the fuck out of my booth. I don't want to hear you even speak. There's no reason to hear your side no more. Get out.
Yeah.
Had enough, dude.
Exactly.
And that's just how sessions are from day one. That's just been the tone, is like, if you're not ready to come in and work, why are you here? Like,
why are you here?
Yeah. I wish I could say that I've kicked out anybody, but I haven't. I usually at this point just vet people enough to where like I can kind of tell like this guy's, I don't want to work with this dude. He's kind of like a loser, you know? But
Totally.
God, for years starting out, it was just constant sessions of dudes showing up late. And then they come in, they're not prepared. They're like, oh, let's go on YouTube and find a beat. I'm like, you haven't even like thought of a beat?
Right. It's like, what made you want to come in? I could have sworn turned the ringer off. I'm sorry.
You're okay, man. You're a busy guy. I don't blame you.
It just happened to be at this time gap.
So, AV, when did you realize that?
sorry, I had to go.
He's got to take a call. We'll ask him when he gets back. No worries.
Yeah, we'll do one of my questions again.
Yeah. We're back on Ingvar. How quickly from when you interned were you able to get a position at the studio?
It was probably like about maybe a year, maybe a little less than a year. I was in kind of a special situation where all the interns right before me were kind of on their way out. So I was kind of filling a void. There was no other intern but me. So I kind of just had a lot of that coming on me. I used to work like 2 full-time jobs, and then I ended up quitting one of them so I could handle the internship. And then eventually it just got to, I was doing so much here, I kept oversleeping on my morning job. And so like, I was just like, hey, Mike, I'm leaving my other job, so let's just do this full. And so I just kind of took that leap there. That was just kind of the universe saying, you gotta just do it. And fortunately I was living at my parents' house at the time, so I didn't have to worry too much about like bills. So I was able to kind of save up, and now I'm at a place where I'm living my own place and I'm still able to sustain. But that's just been a slow and steady process. You gotta just eventually take that leap. I've been seeing a lot of people I know taking that leap lately, and it's really nice to see, like, we're doing this.
I think we're finally getting that age, that the only people left doing this are the people who are very serious. So it's bound to happen that, it does seem like somewhere in your late 20s is when most people finally like get their shit together with this. At least it happened to me.
Definitely. Yeah, same.
Early 20s, I was a fucking mess of a human being. So it just wasn't going to come together then. Yeah.
I wouldn't even listen to music I worked on in my early 20s anymore. Like,
yeah. Although it is funny, like you go back to old productions and occasionally you're like, I kind of like this element of it. Like, I wish I still had.
There's definitely stuff I would go back to, and I'm like, yo, if I could just start fresh and just explore this idea again, then I would definitely do that if I had time. But like right now, I just don't have time.
No, fuck no, no time.
That time is like limited. It's just limited, and I wish it wasn't. I wish I could just freeze time and do all the shit I need to do. I got so many projects that are just finishing up right now. We're like hitting final mastering stages. Like, hey, I just gotta listen to this album for 2 weeks and just nitpick at anything. But like, yeah, so it's just time.
Yeah, I absolutely feel it. All right, we've got an AV question. Fast. Yeah.
We got an AV question.
That should be the last time I get a call until 9 o'clock.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you. Ingvar, you're drinking coffee and it's like 8:30, bro. You okay?
This is the coffee that I've had since the morning. I've been just slowly. I try to just pace myself on it.
Why are you doing that to yourself, man? It's nighttime.
That's the studio life.
That's the studio life.
Yeah. So AV, what I wanted to ask was, how quickly after you got Ingvar did you start to notice that, like, oh, okay, this kid like has potential? How was that for you?
I always test to see like how interested they are genuinely in the craft itself first. And if I see him working on something on his own a lot, which was mixing, he liked learning mixing and mastering, and he kept dabbling on it. But I'm like, all right, I learned it from situation by situation, scenario by scenario. So I needed him to be more hands-on. And I had the opportunity to do that when we was working on a DJS program. And he was really able to sit down and really watch a lot of my techniques. And I was able to break down some things to him in my chain and understand my understanding of it. And he got to see what I was doing with different voices with little bits of nothing. We had to make a studio out of a little cabin that they had out there with a youth, I'm talking about DJS's Department of Juvenile Services. That's where we took our studio equipment out to a prison facility where youth was locked up. They were inmates. And we built a studio in this cabin. And we turned this room into a booth. And if you were good throughout the whole week, that Saturday, we would come out and do 4 hours with you.
Oh, that's sick.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And Ingvar was there to help me with it and learn a lot.
We did every Saturday for a year.
Right.
Wow.
So, from that point forward, he took that knowledge and everything he learned from just working up here with his clients, and he just got those man hours in and got his workflow down, got his work process down, understand what he wants to aim for and how to achieve it once it's thought of. He doesn't have to, keep going back to something, if he does, it's for little minute things. You know what I mean? It's not an overall, he's lacking the whole understanding with what the client really needs. So now it's all about, okay, how to achieve it. Now let's next round it. Let's flip the script on it. Let's give it definition. Understand what you did to do it so you can do it again and again and again and again. Even on a bad day, good day, a mediocre day, you could do it at command. You knew what it took to make this. Understand what you're doing. Do not fluke it.
This is slightly more technical, just a tiny bit, but did he learn the brower motion stuff from you?
No.
Ingvar, you're a crazy motherfucker.
He in an indirect way.
What is he talking about?
It's a crazy plugin. He raves about it.
Tremolo.
What is it? Brower motion?
Okay.
Brower motion, yeah.
That's his plugin for what? Yeah.
That's my plugin, but the way that I thought about using it was from techniques that he was showing me.
Yeah, he got that from me. I do not like. I don't want to have to drop a next round technique on you, man. I'll drop one on you, okay? All right. Speaking of next round, I like to think of three-dimensional. Two different dimensions existing in the same space. So I don't like it to be sitting still. It's got to move, even though it's in the same song. So I like it to have movement in the panning, in the filtering, the aquaticness, the rippling, the wetness, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we use rotations and imagers and modulators to give it more of a surround movement as it's moving left or right in a circular motion.
I noticed that in some of the music that was sent to me through Seamus that you did. There was a lot of cool synths that were moving around. They had this nice trailer reverb and it was following it. It sounded really cool.
Thank you.
I don't know if that was that same plugin. I've never even heard of Brower Motion before.
Well, you can do it with a lot of things, yeah.
Yeah, the Brower plugin is just a plugin used to create that effect. But I use a different effect, obviously, to create that effect. But he used Brower to...
Brower is just my version, because AV works on Mac, I'm on Windows, and his was kind of just more of a Mac thing. But Brower Motion was just a Waves plugin. I got in one of those, like, hey, you get a free plugin by spending this much money. And it just looked cool. The interface looked so cool. I didn't even really know what it did at the time. And I just, started messing with it. A lot of the presets on there are way too extreme. You really just have to mess with it on your own and build your own relationship with that plugin.
Yeah. I mean, I still use that technique when it comes to like things like hi-hats, because we were making trap beats together one time, and you were like, I don't want to pan the hi-hat. Let's leave it up the center and just do some like stereo widening and use an LFO or something on it. Like, it's cool. Very, very cool technique.
Sounds fun.
Next round.
So, Ingvar, what would you say in particular is the core things that you learned from interning under AV?
I think it's just discipline. You know, you have to, again, put in the man hours, be consistent with coming in. This isn't just a part-time, you know, we have other interns that come in and they think it's just like, oh, you can come in and you'll instantly learn everything in 1 week. This isn't a summer camp. It's all about discipline. It's all about going back, listening back, knowing that you might not have gotten it on the first time, but you have to just go back and always find a way to get yourself grow, you know. And obviously, you know, there's just like approaches to mixing, but also just recording how to handle a session, not just kicking people out, but like, you know, being able to coach
customer service and production.
Yeah, it's just, you know, giving a shit about the client, listening to what they're doing, giving suggestions, say, hey, what if we did it like this, you know, and just
next realm in their music.
Yeah, I had a session earlier today. This guy was like doing some stacks on a verse, and at one part I suggested he did like a little whisper for like one little line or something, and it just blew his mind. He's like, I never would have thought to put that there. It's just a little thing, and it made that verse, that moment in the verse, so much better. But he never would have thought of that. He could have recorded that at home, and that version would have been completely different.
I do find that with sessions, you also have to like be pretty good at just like reading body language, because you have to figure out how hard can I push this guy before he cracks, because you want to get like the best possible performance, right? And for me, I work on a lot of stuff I work on is like super pissed off music. So like you can't just be like joking with your friends and then go and do something really emotional and angry. Like you got to kind of get them into that mindset somehow. I mean, I've made people like, there was a 12-hour drum session I had once, and the drummer was just like floundering by like hour 10. And he just kept like fucking up a super simple part. So, and we have a good relationship. So I went out and I was like, fucking do like, give me 20 push-ups, like just like screaming at him. He's like, what? I'm like, do 20 push-ups. He does that. He's like, okay, dude. I'm like, okay, go run around the block, come back and fucking nail this drum part. And he did. That take ended up on the album.
Oh, okay.
It's amazing.
Occasionally, I mean, I don't always do this. Dude, I think it was I think that's something I heard from like Rick Rubin or somebody when he was producing like Korn. He did something similar to Jonathan Davis. So I'm like, okay, occasionally people need to be pushed like that. Not often.
You can give him the old Phil Spector and just
just fucking point a gun at him.
We're gonna keep listening to this bass part until we get it right.
Really get the blood pumping that way.
It's funny because in a normal session, it's almost the opposite, where like, since they're paying you for your time, it's almost like, you know, even if you kind of don't love the music, it's like, well, I guess I'm being held hostage here. This bass really does have to sound right. Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I love this job, but that is where like a lot of the stress comes from, is you get paid and you're like, oh, I got to fucking deliver now. Like shit, can't half-ass this.
That's been kind of the mindset here, is like, even if you don't, you know, aren't exactly with the music, it's still going to sound dope.
Yeah. As long as I want people to hear your stuff and say, yo, you suck, but who did you record that with? Why my shit don't sound like that? I know I'm better than you. That's the reaction I want.
The way I try to deal with clients, and granted, actually nowadays I just have a bunch of good clients, which is cool. But
That's
again,
great.
like I've just whittled them down. I think by raising my prices, I've gotten rid of like the more annoying people. But I always tried to focus on the positives rather than the negatives. So like, if I hated everything they were doing, then they did like one cool thing, I'd like, you know, support that. I'd be like, that's really cool. Like what you did right there. Like you should do that more, you know, just kind of subtly pushing them like, please.
Oh, definitely. You got to help them find their own sound. Let them know what they're capable of, because they don't get that luxury of being in the booth all the time. And it could be time, like a lot of time between when they did their last session. So the growth that they learned in that session could just whittle away by the time they come back in and warm their stove back up. So a lot of times I'm on them and I'll play back old stuff and get them to match that vocal before we do a new song. Especially if they're adding a second verse to a song that's got a first verse already on it. I'll make them rap that first verse until they match their voice. Then we'll go to the second voice. You know, but you just got to warm that stove up and get them back into it and let them get comfortable with you being that guy. Because that's the big part of the mix. It's like, yo, there's only so much I can do to get your voice oomph. Now I need you to deliver. That way it's worth mastering. This is not worth mastering. Now let me show you which song we did master, and I don't want nothing less than that. Don't give me anything less than this.
Yeah, you could almost always hear how comfortable an artist was in the situation, like with the engineer. Like the first recordings you do with somebody is like almost always like the worst one.
Well, that's like the audition. That's the audition for both parties.
Totally.
The artist gets to see how good the engineer is, and the engineer gets to see how much turd do I have to polish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're here for me to polish a turd, obviously. You know what I mean? Especially with artists that use an auto-tune. It's not something they can rehearse at home. So they really have to trust you know what you're doing. So when you're doing that, you got to make sure you're really like guiding the artist and letting them know how to use the effect, how to, you know, stay away from vibrato that you can't really hit, and just keep that note straight a little bit, and we can do all the vibratos underneath from the dubs, and we can just really focus on that. But some of them think I'm about to come in here and go straight through. I can do 3 songs in an hour. Because I did it at home. I know it like the back of my hand. Sure. I'm like, you don't know what you getting into, man.
I've only had 2 clients.
I've
only had 2 clients that were able to one take stuff. Like one was a guitarist and he did one take of like a 7-minute song. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
And the other one was a rapper, and every time he came to me, I mean, I don't work with him anymore, which is unfortunate just because like it's kind of cheap, which sucks, but like his talent is through the roof. I mean, he just comes in and fucking nailed it every single time.
Did he do a lot of rehearsing or demoing before?
I'm guessing he rehearsed a lot before to it, because he would have the beat and he'd come in and just like lay it down. I mean, he was the type of guy to get 3 songs done in an hour or 2, like just nailing it.
He must have had a style
That's so cool
that could allow him to do that. Nowadays, artists rap so fast and sing at the same time that you got to kind of walk it down and punch it in, because they can't articulate so much, let alone have the breath control to get it out. But then you got some traditional rappers where it's so bars that are spaced out, so it gives them breath control to kind of run it straight through. Or it's a safe flow that they kind of just going straight through with bars, and you kind of allow the breath. You know what I mean? You allow them to cut words off to go into the next one. It sounds authentic, you know?
Yeah,
artists like that, I don't mind. 3 songs in an hour, maybe. They probably really snippets, not songs. Bunch of freestyles or something. But the hook alone, like, I don't care how simple it is. You better give me some time to hook this up. It could be as repetitive as you want. I'm about to chop and stutter this thing. I'm about to make you do part A, part B. It's going to take time regardless. But if I'm just giving you a safe record and I don't really care, and I'm just like, yo, you like that? Push record. You like that? Let's do it again. You fuck with that? EQ, compress a little bit of reverb, or echo here and there, and boom, send you out the door. Then 3 songs in an hour. But if you're here with next round, like, we're not here for that.
Yeah.
We're here to make you like, this is a song that can't be ignored.
Yeah. I like to take that approach. I like to take that approach with drums, especially since I work on a lot of music with drums. Like if your drums suck, the whole song is going to suck. So I take a ton of time, like easily, 4 to like 8 takes of each song. And then we comp between them. And then still we listen back and we're like, that fill could be better. And then we're listening to details like you hit this cymbal here, but then in this other take, the decay just like dies. So like, we're going to have to punch in there and make sure that works right. Like little shit like that. But it stacks up, man. When you do that for every aspect of a production, like it shows in the final product. Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm with that work ethic. Why? Because you never know which song is going to blow and how long that song could really get you money. Like you could release that beat over and over and over again. You know what I mean? Because it's worth it. You know what I mean? They can hear it. And like, all right, 500. I know. I can't get this on YouTube. You know what I mean? Netflix. All right, I want it. You know what I mean? It's like you hear the guitars, you hear all this percussion, you hear the live instrumentation, you hear the synthesizer, you hear the progression, you hear how it's not just a loop. You hear the breakdowns and build-ups. You can hear it. You understand, okay, this is like, I can't believe this is even for sale. You know what I mean? And if you could try to achieve that, no matter what you do, you might not get there every time, but you'll be surprising yourself how close you can get there and how many times. And that right there motivates the team. Because, you know, you couldn't have did that without them. They took it somewhere you couldn't have went. Like, damn, I wouldn't even thought to do that shit. And that's the fun in it.
Someone mentioned something and it sends you down a completely different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Oh, it is almost 9.
We're getting there, yeah.
8:51.
All right, bro, give me 5 minutes, man. I'm still wrapping up something. All right. Duty calls.
All right, so let's see.
Right there.
If you got 5 minutes, let's get the big questions for you out of the way.
Oh, his headphones just unplugged. He's plugging them back in. Sorry.
You're good. So AV, if you've got 5 minutes, let's get the big questions out of the way for you. So do you have anything you want to plug before you're done today?
When you say that, what you mean?
Like any new projects that you're working on that people should be on the lookout for, anything that has already been released recently that you want people to watch out for?
Look out for Julian Gale's project coming out this year. He's gonna be dropping a song called Birthday Cake that I sent you. We feel very, very, very strong about this song. This song hopefully can kind of introduce us to a more commercial sound, more so than the dark cinematic sound we're used to. Okay, so I want us to like kind of get our foot in the door for something that's to the masses first, and see if we can kind of like bait them with that first, and then start opening up to soundtracks and film scores and apps that need music, video games that need music, like anything that just needs audio and sound. And by having a team of musicians and artists, we should be able to achieve anything that somebody throws at us.
Very, very cool. Well, it seems like you've got stuff to do.
Oh yeah, look out for my single dropping this year. I got my own single coming out for the strip clubs. It's called AV Antidote, aka Virus. But I sent that song to you as well. That's me on the track rapping with my beat. It's 100% me. So dope. Look out for that track soon. The video's been shot. I got to shoot one more scene and then I'll be releasing it. It's coming soon though.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I like I said, we briefly listened, but like knowing the context of stuff, I'll definitely listen back, and I appreciate it, man. I mean, it seems like you got shit to do. So AV, it has been a fucking pleasure, man. It's nice to finally meet you.
Definitely a pleasure, man. Nice to meet you. Hope we get to make some next round tracks together, man. And anything you want me to collab with on your personal ventures, man, let me know.
Fuck yeah, man.
You up, man. Okay?
We'll definitely get some shit done. I promise.
All right. I'm going to take your word on that. Word is bond.
All right. Sounds good. All right.
All right, man. I'll see y'all the next dimension, man.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Have a good one, man.
All right, Ingvar, you're up. You're going to carry us on home now, okay?
All right.
All right. Well, this was a question I was hoping that we'd have both of you for, but we don't. So how do you think your production styles differ from each other, and what makes you complement each other so well?
I don't really know. A lot of his styles are just very much his, and you'll hear it in his portfolio. You know, there's a lot of filters and stuff going on, and just the way he approaches, like you mentioned before, the aquatic. And I've definitely taken a lot of those situations. And again, like, you know, starting off, we had different plugins, different chains. So a lot of it is me taking his concepts and converting it to my chain. But then he also kind of helped me up on here, and just kind of building the hybrid from there, just kind of setting that consistency. I came from more of an EDM background, so I've just been kind of like, you know, I know a little bit more about that kind of EDM pop production, and he's been kind of bringing me more insight on it.
Tell AV thank you for closing that.
Yeah.
Good man.
Sorry, I should have thought about that when you walked
No,
out.
don't worry about it, man.
But yeah, so he helped bring me a lot of insight into hip hop. He also just just listening wise introduced me to a lot of artists and albums for me to listen to and kind of take his sound off of. He showed me a lot of songs that he bases, reference wise from his, and I listened to them, see what he's pointing out to me. But really right now is about us merging it more together. He comes from a different school of thought. He had to teach himself. He didn't have a mentor like I get to have him, and he learned all that himself, and he just figured out how to take a plugin, turn it on its head, and make it do what he wanted it to do, not what the plugin wanted him to do. And so he helps bring that fresh approach when I'm making the music, and I'm kind of bringing, I know a little bit more technicality side of things, like, just about, how to organize busing, or, hey, this is a plugin that I had, like the Brower Motion. He didn't have that, but I showed him that. And so now he's familiar with it. So we're just sharing a lot of information off each other. I'm a piano player, so I know a lot about key signatures and building the chords, but he's got an ear. He can figure out those same chords and melodies. And from a non-music theory standpoint, we live in a day and age where you can just, the best people will sometimes just guess and test, and they can create something. I've seen them create piano parts that even our guy Lafayette, the jazz pianist, he's standing there just like, what's going on? And that's what you need for that next real music, that next sound. You can't just take, this has been the status quo for a century, for the whole 1900s or early 2000s even. That's a whole era of its own. Like I said, we're in the 2020s. We need to just fuck shit around.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And I definitely agree with like the fun part of hanging around with other producers is that you kind of just trade tricks with each other. Like you and I have done that a lot. Like
exactly. A situation comes up and you just like, oh yeah, this is what I've done before. And you're like, wow.
Well, Andrew and I have done it as well. I mean, I like kind of mentored Andrew like 5-6 years ago. Like for a while I would just like give you like impromptu lessons over like Skype or some shit, right? So like it's crazy.
Might have been even longer than that.
Yeah, it might have been. But it's crazy that now like you'll occasionally just, we chat all the time. It's same how you and Ingvar or me and Ingvar do, where it's like we'll just chat about like, oh yeah, I've been using this one plugin. It's like, well, what are you using it for? And then somebody will say something like, fuck, I never thought of doing that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Super cool to have people that you can communicate with like that.
Plants in your mind, and then a situation comes up and you're like, oh wait, let me try and see if that worked. And then it does. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah. Such a cool feeling.
Like I've been using Saturn more because Andrew's been using it, and I've seen a couple people use it, but I don't know. Nowadays, I'm just fucking loving it. It's just an excellent sounding plugin.
That's amazing, dude.
Saturn, what's that?
It's a saturator, but it can also be a multi-band saturator. So you can pick different types of saturation for each part of the frequency spectrum.
You showed me that.
Yeah, we've used it a little bit, but like I'm starting to get into it more. I kind of have been using it like a multi-band tape machine recently, which is really interesting. So I can be like, I don't want the mids to get as excited or whatever. I want the highs and the lows to be kind of excited, or I want the lows clean, like stuff
Sometimes
like that.
I go down a rabbit hole with stuff like that though. Like the more bands that you have, and then you just have to sit there and like listen and like, it's worth it. It definitely is.
Yeah, I try to stick to like 4 bands max on that. That's my self-imposed rule, so I don't take it too far. Absolutely. So let's see what else we got. We bounced around a little bit with questions, but let's see what we got here. What's your favorite project that you worked on? The fuck do you like about the music that you worked on?
I've had a few projects lately that I've been like really like, it's just been a journey. And every year, you have projects you're like, wow, this was the best one of the year. Like, this was really the highlight. Yeah. But like every year it just keeps growing and growing. But I've got a lot of projects that are wrapping up now. I've been working with this artist, Fola. She's kind of a R&B, neo-soul singer-songwriter. And she recorded this album. And she originally sent it to some other engineer to mix it. But the guy was more of like a hip-hop engineer and treated it like a hip-hop mix and just commercialize the crap out of it, but it was a more organic sound. And so she got referred over here, and AV and I were, we definitely kind of took that to the next level, and we mixed it, and we're pretty much wrapped up. We're kind of in the final mastering stage with that. And then we're working on some new singles with her right now. We're still kind of working on that. That's in the works, but we're trying to incorporate her. We're trying to next realm her sound. Hey, we did an album where we mixed it and made it sound good. Now, like, if we're part of the writing process and the production process, we can really control all aspects and have that control over the product. We've been doing that a lot lately. There's another artist I work with, Sammy. She's a
very good
pop singer in LA. She does a lot of dark pop. And I started off just mixing her stuff, and then did some producing for her. And just now, AV and I were about to start working on a new single with her.
That's
and
sick.
Another singer. But I just did the first single that I worked on with her. We're working on finalizing that. I did a remix for one of her songs. Here's part of
the remix is killer. It's really good sounding.
Thanks, man. That was a lot of fun. I'm trying to get more into my shell with some of that stuff, and those are just challenges that we're bringing in together in these projects that have 100 tracks, and you gotta have multiple people just on top of that to give you perspective. Otherwise you get lost in the sauce. Sometimes I'll be working on something, he'll walk over to the computer, pull up an EQ, and then I'm just sitting there like, oh my god, like,
why didn't I think of this? Fuck.
Yes, why didn't I think of that? That was mind blowing. You just walked in, heard it, did it. And that's just the quickness that he has with it. And so I've just been trying to keep up. But he's definitely been a great person with that, just kind of bringing new life to a mix here and there. And we're working together. That's why we're taking this step with Next Realm, trying to get more into that production. We're just that joint. We're package deal.
Yeah.
Super cool.
I mean Neptunes, I guess.
I would love to, of course I always send mixes off to friends if I'm a little unsure, like I did with the Vaccaro mix that's coming out this weekend with you two. Actually, you guys are the only guys I sent it to. Ooh. So now I'm happy with it, but I don't think I would have been happy with it unless I had the approval of both you guys, because my perspective, like you said, is just.
And that's what we do too. We're always just sending tracks back to each other, like, hey, test this in your car, test this on your speakers.
Yeah.
And we're always just kind of talking about them. And it's nice, being able to see each other every day and do it. It's not like, oh, I sent it and I'm going to talk to you like next week about it. It's kind of just being in the same building. Like, his studio's downstairs. I'm on the ground level. And we got another production room over there that we're
Did you switch the layout of your room? Because I remember you used to be facing like that way, right?
Oh yeah, that was a while ago. I used to have the speaker sitting this way, and because the window to the booth was right there, so I could just like look at the artist. But the distance from the wall it was a little too short, and so the sound was a little. I was just hearing it in my mixes, and then one day I was like rewiring the studio, and I was about to reset it up back here, and then AV suggested, hey, why don't you put it that way? Let's try it out. And now it's like good. And even if you sit back on the couch back there, you can still like get a good sound and kind of judge from the bass there. And I like it more. It just has more room to breathe. And I don't know, it's just been a more reliable setup. And I got the dual screens and the studio speakers. Eventually, if I get like a bigger desk, I would love to have a second pair of monitors, because I got this Drummer monitor controller. I can have 2 other pairs of speakers hooked into here if I really wanted, but just haven't.
Yeah, I've been thinking about possibly moving my setup onto this wall, but like that little fucking outcrop sucks. That makes me not want to do it.
You gotta keep it how you have it in there.
Yeah, you know how it is. It is a tiny room, so there's not that much space to play with. No. But like, damn, I'm breaking the rule of like, don't be on the long wall. I'm breaking the rule of like, don't be in a square room. It's almost a square, and I'm on the long wall square room.
You gotta just do what you got. Like, we can't make we can't make a architecturally perfect room. Obviously we would love to, but you just go to other studios for that, rent them out.
Yeah.
But in this world of bedroom production, we have that too. Like the production room we have over there used to be a drum room, but it just at some point we were just like, let's just record drums elsewhere. Let's do something else in that room. In a digital world, we program a lot of our drums before we even go out and record live. We do all the guitars just DI.
Yeah.
There's a lot of producing you can do. We have a vocal booth, great vocal booth, soundproofed. So obviously you can do vocals, but everything else can be done.
Yeah, I don't use amps anymore. I just use DI. Like, what's the point? Like amp sims are just sounding so good nowadays, and unless you have like, crazy expensive amps, crazy expensive mics, and an amazing room, like you're not going to be able to beat what an amp sim can offer nowadays.
One of the first projects I ever worked on that hit 100 tracks was a project where they did all the guitar DI, but then the guitarist wanted to do reamping. So then it just like tripled my track count.
Oh.
And it just like wall of guitar tracks.
Yeah.
It was
wild.
so much.
The Earthworm project is it's at like 105 tracks now. You have to
have those layers on stuff to do it. I've been getting more into just automating little things. And so like I sat on a Zoom call with Sammy. We were working on this new single, and it was just 4 hours of, hey, what about that? Nudge that there. This needs to rise up that way. Doing, you're sculpting something. You're an artist. You're putting in the little brush strokes here and there.
Yeah, to me, mixing, like the static mix is almost like the way that my mentor explained it to me is like any monkey can make a static mix. It's like the automation is the real artistry, making things move and breathe. That's when you're actually like putting.
And that's what they had to do back in the day. You had this. You hear the story, like obviously like the Beatles and stuff when they were doing. Was that Day in the Life, and they were just bringing the faders up and down, or was that a different song?
Something, or like Bohemian Rhapsody, you have like 6 interns like manning the entire board.
It's a performance. It's a collaboration because everyone had to look at each other and sync that up. You had all the audio already recorded, but like the way that you had to transfer it onto that tape, that was your performance. The mixing desk was your instrument at that point. It's no different than a DJ that was doing a transition on a mix or bringing in a sample. Still have to do that. And that's what gave soul to those recordings. And we're just trying to bring back that level of quality control where you're just not sitting still and like, yeah, that was cool. I bet. Yo, that shit hard.
Yeah. I think it's smart, or it's a cool viewpoint that I wish more people took, in that, the producer or the mixer is like basically part of the band for that recording, because he's imparting his vision onto it as well. Without that guy, anybody else can mix it and it'll all sound different, right?
You can take the same song or the same project and bring it to 4 different producers and you're going to get a different product. The song will be the same, but there have been sometimes projects can go down different holes. Someone might focus on one part more than the other, make it sound like something. It's interesting how it turns out.
Yeah, I did that before I started asking bands for references. There was one time I thought I knew what they were going for, so I went with like a dirtier, kind of really saturated production, and then they were like, yeah, we just wanted something really nice and clean. I'm like,
oh, I know. Everyone has that moment where you're like, I got too ambitious and didn't ask.
Totally.
Like Andrew, what happened with that drum thing with the one band that you were working with?
Oh yeah, a band called Hella Metal. They were a thrash metal band that I was producing, and their drummer came in. I went to them. I got live tracks, and I was going to bring those live tracks home and remap the MIDI. And their guitarist was like, "Yeah, let's add some flair to it. Like, let's really like make this a cool studio thing." So I like added a bunch, not too much, but I went ahead on the drums, and added my creative touch to it, just for him to come back to like finish things up. And he's all, "Nah, get rid of all of it. I want it back the way that I wrote those drums." I was like, "Damn it, man! Like it sounded cool. Why?"
I know.
Got way ahead.
Some people just get stuck to the original demos. I have people that like they'll come in and record, and they'll have a quote unquote session mix. Like you kind of clean up a little bit before they leave, and they listen to that, and then you mix it and master it, and it's different. And
Demoitis. That's what it's called.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
I'll have to refer to it as that. It's and there's nothing wrong with how the demo was, but like a demo is a demo. It's your starting point. You're getting your idea out. We're supposed to flesh it out. We're supposed to get on with it. Like, don't get
Totally.
attached to this.
Yeah, although it is, on the flip side, from the artist perspective, it is interesting to listen to the demo and then compare it to your final mix and being like, pretty often you lose something. You know what I mean? Like overall, it will sound dramatically better, but there might be something like that guitar just had more weight behind it in the demo. Like, damn, like that was cool. And it's not something that's so easy to bring back with just a little EQ. Like it's the way that you balanced everything. It's all the thousands of decisions that you made that led it to the point where the guitars might sound thinner than they did. Yeah, audio in that raw state just kind of has a certain appeal. So I'm not completely detached from demoitis. I think sometimes it's a good exercise to be like, what did I butcher with this mix? What did I do better? In the future, what can I be aware of so I don't do it again?
I listen back to all my old mixes, like within a certain time period. Like,
yes,
if it's something that I finished like a few weeks ago, I still keep it on standby. If I'm in the car, I'll listen to it. Or if it's like I had a session and it's just a session mix I'm listening to, like, oh, when we get to mixing, I already know what I want to do. Just constantly. You gotta just be listening back and be, and you listen to it from the perspective of, oh, this is something you sent me or someone else sent me. You have to almost be like, this is not mine. And then you have to nitpick it. Like, oh, well, I could do this better next time, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but it really is like, it really is like picking out like the major problems, like, especially stylistically, like, I do a shitload of additive EQ. And you do mostly subtractive, right? So right. And yet both of our productions sound fine. So like, but it is interesting when we listen to each other's productions and you have to get that out of your mind. Like, okay, yeah, I would have boosted like fucking 8 decibels on the top end, but I'm like, okay, hold on. Yeah. Like what really is the major issue with the mix? Like, to me, I never would have thought, speaking of the Vaccaro track, the horns, I never even thought about them. I was like, yeah, they sound good. They're just kind of there. But you're right, adding that little bit of weight made a lot of sense. It kind of glued like the mid-range or the low mids a little bit better. It was a great suggestion.
Yeah. And some of that stuff is stylistic. People have different ways that they would approach the same situation. And it's like, hey, I would compress this and then do that. Or I would throw, I don't know, I'm not going to make hypothetical situations, but, your version of a round bass might be different than my version of a round bass, or thick guitars. But he left his phone here.
Speaking of
it's hilarious.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Can you pause for a second? I can run it down to him.
Yeah, sure, I got you.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. Hey, we're back. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Andrew, do you have any questions? Because I feel like there's just been so many people talking this time that we haven't heard too much from Andrew today.
Honestly, I don't have a whole lot. I've been enjoying the conversation, man. It has been kind of a lot, but it's been great to get to hear both of you guys, you and Ingvar and AV talking.
Yeah. My goal for this
is to meet you
to
guys a little bit.
Yeah. My goal for this is just to allow the guests to talk way more than either of us do, just because we've already done 10 episodes of just us talking. This is about them. They're here. They're giving us their time. Yeah.
Totally. I'm not worried about it one bit.
Yeah. Speaking of,
feel free to ask. So I'm an open book.
Okay. My question to you, Ingvar, how come you never say hi anymore? We never hang out.
You gotta get back into that.
Honestly, busy.
It's just been time and pacing. Like Wednesday through Saturday, I'm here from like noon or 1 o'clock till 11, sometimes midnight, depending on like what's going on. Just either sessions or we're working on beats, or we're trying to just spruce up the studio a little bit. I got an IKEA table I have to assemble after this. We're building a new podcast room. And we have like an audio situation. We've recorded. We're trying to got our own podcast. We're trying to get started up. We're just we done like a few demo takes, but we're just trying to hone like episode 1. We want to get that episode 1 good.
Yeah. Which is like the opposite as us. We were just like, fuck it, let's just do it and then make it better as we go.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But we want to just, with the launching of the Next Realm brands, we want to just coordinate everything. So we're working on a new website. We're getting a new logo. We're trying to, just organize a portfolio so that we just have it up there. And then I guess the podcast will just be like another outreach of that too. But there's so many other things we got to do, you know. But the podcast room is also just if people want to come and record podcasts. I used to have a sports podcast and a Dungeons and Dragons podcast we recorded here, but we're just trying to spruce it up to make it like more video worthy. Because it used to just be a drum room, so it was just like cables and stuff everywhere.
I mean, for me, it's been getting the acoustic panels has been almost a godsend, because my room might not be anything special looking this way, but at least it's clean looking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, super solid.
Totally.
This is all the impressive shit, and I think you've seen it since I put up the treatment, right? It's like, I don't know if you have actually, Ingvar. I don't know if you've been here since then, but like the front wall is nice looking.
I thought I did.
Really, really good.
But maybe
I don't know. It's been so long.
But yeah, it's just been like time. So like Wednesday through Saturday doing that, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday I do virtual teaching, and it's like every day there's something to do. But that's the life of a musician. You can't just like feel like you work a 9 to 5 and clock out. You can't clock out of music. I mean, it's still good to take breaks. Like
I try, man. Like I try.
I know you guys definitely had talks about that.
Yeah. I try to take Mondays and Tuesdays off, but like you're right. Occasionally, like you have a deadline, you're working on a mix, and you're like, I just got to fucking get it done.
That's like, kind of just what now has been. Like this summer is going to just be a lot of crunch time. Like, you know, maybe I'll go to the beach a couple times, but really just like I said, like there's a lot of projects that are finishing now, and those projects are really kind of be the portfolio for the rest of the year. And so I've just been like nitpicking that, just being neurotic about it.
Easy to do.
But it's just we just want to come out the gate strong and just ride this wave for the rest of the decade. You know, this is going to be the start of it's already been a great journey, but we're just branching into this new stage. We're trying to go for that bigger projects. I don't want to just, sorry, I'm just kind of rambling off at that point.
The point that we want you to ramble. This is a podcast. I mean, I like that you guys are getting into like TV placement and stuff. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Because I've always been interested. I mean, you and I have talked about, and you've heard a lot of my electronic stuff, like video game music. That's something I feel like I'd be good at, but like that's such a hard market to break into.
It really is. And at this point, we're just kind of trying to find, like, we're up for the challenge. That's our thing, is like we feel like we can handle it, but we just need to find that person that we can like get our foot in the door and say, hey, like, let's do this for you. And let's, make a thing to make this work. But how many indie video game developers do you know? How many indie filmmakers?
Your cousin's one? Tell him to hit me up.
My cousin Daniel Jordan Ango. He's doing some A-rated game right now or something like that. He's some kind of manager in some department.
No shit.
He moved from here to like San Francisco. I'll have to get the information. Let you guys check out the game or something.
Yeah, like we're really just trying to look for like any kind of game, any kind of TV, small film, anything. Like we're just AV, his producer name, audio video, is exactly that. Is he very much adds that cinematic element to whatever he incorporates, either through Foley or for just like you said, making things move. If it's a 3-dimension, it's a movie, not just a piece of audio.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to apply it to all mediums. We're still doing music, but there's so much more production-wise you can do. And it's just, how do you break into that? That's such a cliquey world to live in. You just got to kind of make your own thing and hope someone wants to bring you in.
Yeah.
But,
in a way, like all audio is like that, right? Because it's just such a, I don't know how to say it. Like it's such a tiny, special little club. And then when you do get there, you're so detached from like normal society that now the only people I relate to are like you two. Like you guys are people that kind of know my day-to-day weird life. I feel like you can sympathize.
The internet made it tenfold though, because at least before the internet, you kind of just knew the engineers in your, maybe in your town or your city, or maybe even just like, kind of in the general area. But now you're not competing, but you're in the game with everybody in the world.
You absolutely are. I mean,
there's some kid in an island somewhere that's competing on the same FL Studio or Ableton that you're on. And, you can collaborate with them and work with them, but also just like they're also trying to get that same placement that you're trying to get. There's times a million.
Yeah, well, I think like you mentioned, I think collaboration is definitely the healthier way to look at it nowadays, since we're so much more connected with each other. Andrew and I have been collaborating, just doing the podcast together, even though he lives in Northern California and I'm in Maryland. I mean, we're completely opposite ends of the country, right?
Yep.
Andrew, you need to get some California artists and producers on here. What the fuck are you doing?
I know. Waiting to see what's going on with my hours. Looking forward, so I don't
we'll
get
have to bring
anybody
Sammy
on here
one time.
Please, yeah. Next time she has, especially with artists, I think it's smart. Next time they have a release, get them on here, like
when we finish
marketing for that.
When we finish the single, we'll set it up, and it would be so funny because what you said, you're Northern California. Where are you?
Yeah.
How far are you from like LA?
Oh, like 12 hours, I think. 12 hours.
I keep forgetting California is like that big.
North, like 30 minutes from Oregon.
It's like the whole fucking coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna run away to Canada.
I would too.
How far are you away from the nearest Tim Hortons? Are you closer to Tim Hortons than
I don't even know what that is, but I'm probably a far ways away.
It's a coffee shop in Canada. You're probably closer to Tim Hortons than you are to LA.
Type it in your phone right
surprised.
now. Tim Hortons. How far away from a Tim Hortons? Check it into your Google Maps right now. How far away are you from a Tim Hortons?
Let's see. I'm curious. We'll wait for this answer. So Ingvar, now that we're just going to start to wrap up slowly.
Yeah.
What do you want to plug?
Like I mentioned before, we got this Fula project coming out. TBD. We got the Sammy single we're working on. Hopefully, she's shooting the video right now for it.
Sick.
We're really just in that final production phase. You know, there's a few other synth elements I want to add in there. Now that we have all the vocals, you know, there's like a few just little pieces we want to fill in, make the drop hit a little bit harder, get the vocals sitting in nicer. There's a lot of layers with that. And then plus we got the new song that we're working with AV. So those are definitely going to be some singles coming out with that. I got this rock album, the one I mentioned earlier, with a band Nasty Little Virus, and that name was around before COVID. Rock projects, a lot of different mix of stuff too. You know, you have some prog rock, some reggae, some hard rock, just different. It's a good variety pack of stuff.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling through stuff right now.
You're a fucking busy guy.
There's just tons of stuff going on here and there. I got a bunch of hip hop projects. I got this guy, Jay Byrne. We just had a session earlier today before this session where we finished up the last song on the project, like recording. We redid a verse and then just added some like ad-libs and stuff. So now it's just wrapping up that album, and we were already mixing and mastering the other stuff before. So this was really like, after mixing, we realized we wanted to redo. So that was that final touch up. So stay tuned for that. Stuff that's already out. I work with an artist, John Tyler. He's a big part of the Baltimore music scene. John Tyler, amazing music, and he runs his own entertainment company, Love Groove Entertainment. He has a festival that he partnered up with Center Stage, and he's just working with them and creating this new festival. You know, speaker talks along with artists and just artists of all kinds, musical, graphic, photography. I've done mixing and mastering for all of his latest projects. He's got Project Free Love out. It was a project he put together during the pandemic, and it's just very much a therapeutic, chill project. It was very much, he made it in one day, just meditating and trying to disconnect from technology. And we very much incorporated a lot of that vibe into that production. Before that,
I'm sorry, did you do that song? I think it's called Baby Bird that he did.
Yeah, I did all of that.
The production on that is crazy. How like it just, I know some of that has to be him, but like
he produced everything himself.
Just the way the way you mix it as well, the way it just like moves and like this. There's like one Instagram video where he has like he's saying the name of the song and it's just like crazy sounding. Just the sound design that's going on.
That was so much brow emotion. I know that this is like that.
This is an ad for Brower Motion.
Michael Brower, if you're listening to this podcast, I need you to sponsor me. And also, I follow your daughter on Instagram.
Michael Brower, can you adopt me?
It's such a great plugin, though. Like, seriously, like if you don't have it, use it. But a lot of that was used on that whole project. Working on his projects, he very much loved it, even in projects before, where I started using and experimenting with it, and he really gave me a lot of opportunities to work on that. Other song, he had another project before, The Dreamer. That's a good one. Just a lot of good projects that he's got out on Spotify. I had a big blast working on them, and he's just a hardworking. He's an example of how all artists should be, you know, and all aspects of business and music and production, and just, you know, creating a movement for artists and inclusion. So he's
hopefully that's what like Next Realm and, you know, we're doing as well, just trying to build a community, build a network, and kind of just get people talking together. Because really, I think we
created a Discord. We're considering like using it more. I created a Discord, but I don't know how to.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's just like people. That is kind of the network. Is like then people can drop stuff in there, because not everybody can be in the same room all the time, obviously.
Totally.
But you know, but if people are just sharing and being like, hey, I got this drum pattern, I need somebody to lay down a guitar part or a keys part, or anyone have anything at all. There's a lot of that stuff. Yeah. I'm also working on an industrial project with this artist. Crazy. We did some work before. Their band is Helvet Inc.
Oh shit! They followed me on Instagram, I think. Either that or they got recommended to me. I'm like, I don't know these guys. But
yeah.
For you, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, he's it's not just industrial. I'm not good with all the metal terms.
I get it. Well, Helvet sounds like black metal. So
yeah, it's very much like an infusion of black metal, industrial, and just a lot of these chaotic elements. We did a lot of projects back in 2018. We did an album together. The single off the album was called Godless Heathen Fuck Machine. So that just gives you a vibe.
Damn.
I fucking love that. That's so fun, dude.
So just songs like that. But we just, they've been coming in the studio and laying down. We've been doing a lot of demo and pre-production. And they've been also just kind of looking around at other metal producers as well to get involved. And, you know, getting people to also write synths and stuff. And this is gonna be a big album. I'm excited about that. So I guess stay tuned for that. But it's from what I've just been hearing from the demos that they've been showing me, it's been pretty solid. I'm scrolling through other stuff too. There's just too many different.
You don't have to say everything. The gist is Ingvar is a
Grammy speech. I have to remember that.
I want to thank my mom and I want to thank my dad. And Ingvar is an extremely busy dude and he's in high demand because I think he is an excellent producer. So
just follow me on Instagram and I guess you'll be filled in on all the things that
and we can make sure to link Instagrams and stuff. Just have you and AV send us whatever links you guys want us.
I got my producer Instagram and we created a Next Realm Instagram. So that's definitely one we want to push more. Creating a new Instagram page in 2022 is crazy because mine I created back when I was in high school. So I just acquired over the years, just followers and followers. But starting one fresh and just migrating a lot of stuff to it, it's a process. But it's almost like keeping up with social media is such a job, and like I'd rather just mix all day and not have to worry about it.
That's been my problem.
You have to do it.
This man's fucking, of course, my camera's mirrored. This man's Andrew is very, very talented at keeping up on social media. I would say much more than where I just don't say shit until I have shit to show.
Yeah. I try to. Super important. I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at without it.
Absolutely. Well,
equally as much of a pain in the ass, though.
Yeah. Well, now that Andrew's starting to talk, I think it's time to wrap this up. We don't want to hear anything.
If I'm going to say anything,
yes, please.
I'm 9 hours. I'm 9 hours and 55 minutes away from a Tim Hortons. So
you're closer to Tim Hortons in LA.
Oh
You're
shit!
slowly becoming Canadian.
Oh fuck! The comedic timing on that. It's perfect.
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 Glad
One
we
more
got
and miss
closure
it.
on that. I would have been very
Yeah.
upset. I would have
I
woken
was
up in the middle of
sweating.
the
I
night.
didn't think I'd get my chance.
All right. Well, I am gonna stop the recording now. So everybody say goodbye, Ingvar. Thank you so
Goodbye,
much.
goodbye.
Thanks.
Let
Always a
AV
pleasure.
know that I said thank you, and tell AV I will definitely take him up on that offer to collaborate. That'll be really, really fun doing stuff with you guys.
For sure.
And
man.
we need to get our fucking music that we worked on out at some point. We need to do some of that shit. Ingvar
We
and I
need to-
have.
We need to finish that.
Yeah. I mean, at least that fucking dance track. I mean, that is like such a banger. We need to get that shit out. So, all right, guys,
Gotta
thank you
hear it.
so much for joining. And next week, I believe we're gonna have Garrett Long from the Watermelon Room on.
Hey, I love Garrett.
Yeah.
Watermelon
So-
Room. Shout out.
All right, see you guys later.
Follow. Peace, man.